And good evening, everybody. Welcome. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on the 12-Ounce Sports Platform and Networks. Yours truly, Captain Lou, in the chair again for 2022. The second half of the dynamic duo here on Tuesday nights here on 12-Ounce Sports. That, of course, the first half you heard Mitch Bernstein, The Burn with Mitch. What a great show. He had a stellar guest to end the show. Major leaguer or ex-major leaguer Mark Gubicza, pitcher for the California Angels and the Kansas City Royals. What a great interview that Mitch had. So great to be with you to begin this 2022 year. Hope you had a great Christmas and a great New Year's. I know I did. It was good to take a week off last week to kind of recharge the batteries, get ready to go for 2022. It's going to be a great year. I can absolutely feel it. And I know it's going to be a great year for you too. We got a great show lined up for you tonight to begin this 2022 year. We're going to be joined at the bottom of the first hour tonight by Colin Roberts. He is the head coach of Georgia Tech's hockey program. They're part of the Savannah Classic coming up in a couple of weeks, I believe, the weekend right before MLK Day. It's an annual event down in Savannah where they get Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Florida. They pack about 6,000 people per night in the Savannah Civic Center for that weekend of hockey. They're CHF hockey. So we're going to talk to Colin at the bottom of the hour. It's been a while since we've talked to him. We've had him on a couple of different times throughout the years here on the show. So we'll make sure, and it'll be a good conversation with Colin. Looking forward to talking to him. And then coming up at 9 o'clock, a return guest, Dylan Hebert, is going to join us from the, let's see if I get the Dome Field podcast and the World Elite podcast. We have got a plethora of things to talk to him about. The New Orleans Saints, to start off with, they've got themselves an opportunity to make the playoffs, believe it or not. They stand at 9 and 7, I believe, or 8 and 8, whatever it is. I'll have to look at the standings. I can bring it up real quick right now. Let's see if we can't do that. The standings right now, the New Orleans Saints are 8 and 8. They win on Sunday, and the San Francisco 49ers lose. They're in. Can you believe that? The Saints, a battered team with Taysom Hill at quarterback. They got a shot at beating Atlanta on Sunday. With San Francisco, you don't know with Jimmy G. But anyways, we're going to talk to Dylan about that. I want to pick his brain a little bit on the new hire for LSU. Brian Kelly will get his thoughts on that. While he's been there now a month or so, heavily into recruiting. Speaking of LSU, they're playing a bowl game tonight. I know, what is it, the Texas Bowl against Kansas State. That kicks off in about an hour. So we'll give you updates on that too. And we're also going to talk to Dylan. He does the World Elite podcast, great pro wrestling podcast. We're going to talk to him about the day one results. And, of course, Brock Lesnar, the new world's heavyweight champion, winning that fatal five-way. He'll take on Bobby Lashley at the Royal Rumble, which is coming up in 3 weeks. So we got a lot to talk about with Dylan. Really looking forward to that conversation with him in the second hour of our show. Then, of course, we've got our final Captain Lou six-pack challenge of this year, this football season coming up here at the bottom of the second hour. You've got your last chance to get into the drawing for a $100 Visa gift card and a gift card from Fanatics, a gift certificate rather. We're going to be giving those away next Tuesday on our show, the day after the national championship game between Georgia and Alabama. I've got 6 games that I'm going to pick, 5 games pro, and of course the national championship game, all against the spread. Your job is to pick those games better than me against the spread. You'll be in that drawing along with everybody else that's beaten me for that opportunity to win those prizes. It's been a fun year for that, and we're going to give those away next Tuesday on the show right at the beginning of the program, so make sure that you stick around for that. But make sure you stick around later in the show, around 9:30 or so. We're going to do that Captain Lou six-pack challenge and give away those tickets or those prizes next week. But we're going to give you our last 6 games that we pick of the year. Man, the football season's flown by. Regular season, that is, for the NFL and the college bowl games. It's playoff time coming up next weekend, or I should say the weekend of the 16th. We've got one more weekend of regular season football. A lot to talk about the playoff scenarios. Who's in, who's not, who's on the bubble. A couple of teams that we thought weren't going to have a chance. Now they're in, maybe they're not. It's wild. It's going to come down to this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We've got 2 games Saturday night, then a boatload on Sunday, and a big game Sunday night. That being the Raiders and the Chargers. Pretty much a win and you're in scenario for one of those 2 teams. Pittsburgh still has a chance. We'll talk all about that here throughout the show tonight. We'll touch on Antonio Brown. We might get to that. I've got no more use for Antonio Brown. I'm sorry. I know he may have been injured and whatnot, but there's a right way and there's a wrong way to go about it. My feeling is he shouldn't have been on the team to begin with after that fiasco with his fake vaccination card. You know, it's one of those things, again, I love sports just as much as, obviously I'm doing a show, right? So I love sports more than the average guy. But it just goes to show you sometimes when you can catch a football, you can throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, you can hit a curveball, whatever. You get all the chances in the world as long as you can produce. And Bruce Arians, he stepped in it. And, Tom Brady vouched for him. I don't blame Tom Brady. He vouched for him, but, you can't hold the guy's hand. And Antonio Brown, if you're hurt, I get it. You don't want to go in, you don't go in. But if he's that hurt, boy, he didn't look like it when he was running around on the sidelines and in the end zone in that game against New York on Sunday. He didn't look too injured at the Nets game last night either. I got no sympathy for the guy. Does he got some mental issues? Probably does. I got no sympathy for him whatsoever. So, and we're going to take a break in a couple of minutes. When we come back, I'm going to give you a little bit of my John Madden tribute. One of my favorite sports announcers of all time. It was sad to hear he passed last week. I idolized the guy. But we'll talk about that after the break coming up here. But again, we've got a lot to talk about here tonight. It's going to be a packed show. Really looking forward to it. Energized to be back here in 2022 for another year of the Captain Lou Extravaganza here on 12 Ounce Sports. You can catch us on all of our platforms, by the way. We're on Zingo TV, channel 761. You can check us out on our Facebook Live page, also on our YouTube channel, on Twitter, on Twitch, and also right on our website. You can watch us live there, 12ouncesportsradio.com. So we've got a lot of different ways you can watch this show right here on 12 Ounce Sports. So again, we've got Colin Roberts from Georgia Tech Hockey coming up in the bottom of the first hour. And then at the top of the second hour, Dylan Hebert from the World Elite Podcast and the Domefield Podcast. We're going to talk a variety of things with him too. So stick around, everybody. We're going to step aside here for a couple of minutes. When we come back, we'll do a little tribute, just my thoughts on the passing of the great John Madden. So stick around. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the 12 Ounce Sports Platform and Networks. and Zingo TV channel 761.
Twelve Ounce Sports has a new home for betting. BetUS.com is the official place to place your bets and support 12 Ounce Sports. All you have to do is go to BetUS.com and type in the promo code 120ZE and you'll instantly get a deposit bonus. This is America's favorite sports book. And remember, always gamble responsibly.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on the 12 Ounce Sports Platform and Networks and Zingo TV channel 761. Again, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, our YouTube channel, on Twitch, and, of course, our website. That's 12ouncesportsradio.com. Hey, as we said before the break, we lost one of a giant in the world of sports, obviously. By now, I know you've heard. We were off last week. If you get a chance, check out our website too. As I did an article on this with John Madden passing away. You know, the icon for Madden, the video game and whatnot. John Madden to me was he was just Mr. Personable. What I really liked about him, I can remember Sunday afternoons. Being a Lions fan, we joke about how difficult it was being a Lions fan for all my life. We didn't get the national spotlight. We still don't because obviously the Lions are putrid. John Madden is simple. He personified the big game. He started out obviously coaching the Raiders and he won 75% of his games. Super Bowl winner. I think his worst record was 9-7 the year that he retired. And as I said in my article, as funny as growing up watching him, I was real little. I can remember first watching football about 1971 and seeing him on the sidelines. I was afraid of him. Him and Bud Grant. It always looked like they had a scowl. But John Madden with that imposing figure, as a youngster, I was scared of him. But, now you look back on it and it's like, you laugh at something like that. But his knowledge of the game, ahead of his time, just playing to his strengths as a head coach, and then listening to him broadcast. It just, what I liked about him, how genuine he was with his excitement. He worked with Pat Summerall, then later on with Al Michaels, and it just he personified the love of the game. And again, I don't like to compare eras with broadcasters. I know there's guys like Chris Collinsworth who, he loves the game. But I think sometimes some of these announcers now make the game about themselves. John Madden wasn't like that. Yeah, he was excitable. He used to say boom and bomb and whatever. But that was him. He didn't know any other way. And he made it believable. There was no phoniness about him. But he had that big game feel. Sunday afternoons, 4 o'clock, you could usually get him on TV on CBS. Him and Pat Summerall. Those were growing up, obviously he started when I was in high school, but I grew up Monday Night Football. Couldn't wait to hear Frank Gifford. He was my guy. Ernie Harwell for baseball. George Blaha for basketball with the Pistons. And Bruce Martin for the Red Wings. And then, later on, you got Doc Emmerich. Those are my Hall of Famers right there. Pat Summerall and John Madden, you knew it was a big game. I would watch a game. I didn't care, even if it was the Green Bay Packers, who weren't on with him a lot in the 80s and 90s because they weren't that good, not until Brett Favre. But it was a big game feel. I didn't care who was playing. I always watched the game. And it was because of John Madden. I could sit and listen to him for hours. I wish there was a way that I could have met him in person. But it's funny. When you watch a guy like that every week, it's like watching a sitcom, your favorite show. It almost feels like they become part of your family. It's like you know everything about him because he's with you every Sunday afternoon or on Thanksgiving with the Lions or the Cowboys every week. He did, 6 Super Bowls as a broadcaster. He was on all 4 networks. He was on Monday Night Football. He was on Sunday Night Football. He went from CBS to Fox, him and Summerall. He was an icon. And, he's going to be missed. Obviously, he wasn't on TV for a while. But he was Sunday football to me. We didn't, growing up in the Upper Peninsula as a Lions fan, we didn't get the Lions games because they always showed the Packer games, which was painful. But 2 times a year we would get the Lions games. But he was still coaching. But after that, we a lot of times only got John Madden on Thanksgiving. And it was a treat. It was a great way to start Thanksgiving. But then again, like I said, Sunday afternoons, usually the late game on the on the East Coast, 4 o'clock. More often than not, it was the Cowboys or it was the Rams or, it was the 49ers later on. Then, the Cowboys. I think the closest person, and this is, again, everybody's got their own opinion, but the closest person I'd liken to John Madden right now, to me, is Troy Aikman. I could sit and listen to him every week. I've gotten to like Joe Buck over the years. Sometimes he comes across as a little smug, but I think he's genuine. Troy Aikman, to me, is about as close as, and again, I know people are going to say, you're crazy. But I like Troy. He's honest, and he's genuine. Not nearly to John Madden's degree, but I used to love to watch. Again, it just, I can remember, he got, obviously, his fame with the newer generation with the Madden games and whatnot, but he personified football. Growing up in the 60s in the 70s, watching him on the sidelines and then getting to see him on CBS. It was a treat. And, it's funny, as I wrote in my article, he got excited in all this and that. I remember going to a seminar when I was in college. We went to Chicago. I think it was 1985. It was, the Bears' magical run that year. I listened to a guy, sportscaster. He still does the Bulls games play-by-play. Chuck Swirsky. He's been, I asked him after he gave a speech to us, and I'll never forget. He said, I said, is it good to get excited like that? Because that's how I was. I started doing play-by-play when I was in high school. I got an opportunity at my local radio station to do it. Munising. I got to do a couple of basketball games my senior year. And I got excited. And I did a little bit in college. I taped games that we would play it on the next day on our campus radio station. But I remember asking Chuck Swirsky, is it too overboard? Does it come across, is it okay to be that way? And he said, as long as you come across believable, it's okay to be that way. John Madden, to me, was believable with some of the things. He was genuine. And I'll never forget that. As a play-by-play guy right now, I do hockey games and football games. For those of you that have listened to me or watched me, yeah, I get a little excited, but it is from the heart. But I always remember that. It's the joy of the game. It's the excitement. Show that and be genuine. And that's what John Madden was. And it's something I'll always take with me. So I always learned something from him. His legacy's going to live. It always will. Not just with me, but with millions of people. But John Madden, you're going to be missed. Rest in peace. Passed away 85 years old. Again, watching him every Sunday, it felt like you were right in his living room. He was right there with you, part of the family, eating that turducken on Thanksgiving. So, how could I forget about the semifinal games? We'll stick with football here before we talk to Colin Roberts at the bottom of the hour, head coach of Georgia Tech hockey. Georgia and Alabama, they're meeting for all the marbles next Monday night, 8 o'clock on ESPN or ABC or whatever. Wow. I had a feeling Alabama might do what they did to Cincinnati, but I didn't think Georgia was going to manhandle Michigan that bad. I kind of was worried about it, but I still, in my heart of hearts, probably because I am a Michigan fan, obviously, you see the garb behind me. I really thought that Michigan would put up a little better fight than they did. But boy, I'll tell you what, it just goes to show you that the SEC is up here, everybody else is down here. Michigan rolled through most of their opponents this year in the Big Ten. They had that hiccup against Michigan State. All credit to the Spartans. They deserve that win. I'm not taking anything away from that. But Michigan rolled through the rest of the competition. They crushed Ohio State in the finale. They crushed Iowa in the championship game. They had the momentum on their side. But I'll tell you what, Georgia came in, and I got to say, their team speed and their size and everything, the quickness off the ball, off the edge, was remarkable. Michigan had nowhere to go. Definitely was, that was an eye-opener. And it's funny because Michigan, that game reminded me, and I wrote this in another article I did on 12ouncesportsradio.com. I invite you to check it out. Michigan reminded me of the Detroit Pistons in the mid-'80s and maybe even the Chicago Bulls of the late 80s in the NBA. Baby steps. Detroit used to get in the playoffs. They were bad until about 1983. Then they got in the playoffs, lost in a heartbreaking series to the Knicks. Then the next year they advanced. They would go up against Boston. And you could tell in the playoffs, it was Boston and LA up here, and it was Detroit and everybody else down here. Detroit had to inch their way up. That's what Michigan's got to do against Georgia, the likes of Georgia and Alabama in the SEC. Maybe even, I don't know, Texas A&M next year, or who knows if Brian Kelly's going to have LSU back in a couple of years. But it's a different brand of football down there. Michigan had a great season, but Georgia's Georgia. And I got to tell you, I don't see how Nick Saban really did a number on Kirby Smart in that game. I don't know if they were reading their press clippings or Nick Saban had the perfect game plan or what, which he always seems to do against his assistant coaches. But this is shaping up to be one hell of a game. I'll give you my prediction in the last half hour of the show. You'll see it on the Captain Lou Six-Pack Challenge. But I got to tell you, Georgia just came out. Stetson Bennett, they made him look maybe a little better than he is. I think Bryce Young might be a little bit better than Stetson Bennett. But that defense came to play for Georgia. They stuffed Michigan and they made it look easy. You could see the crazy thing is about this, about momentum and whatnot. Georgia went right down and scored, and they held Michigan, and you could see it on the sidelines. That deer in the headlights look with some of the players on the defensive side of the ball in Michigan, and they looked lost. It and I'm not going to say that Harbaugh got out coached. But you got to give Kirby Smart some credit. A lot of people are saying, well, they just have superior talent that won the game. Oh, sure it did. It had a lot to do with it. But you got to give Kirby Smart credit, because I'm telling you what, you can't tell me that he didn't light a fire under their ass before that game, after that Alabama game. Because I had one of two things in my mind was going to happen. Either they were going to still be thinking about that Alabama game and their confidence level was down, or they were going to come out fired up, with that fire lit under their ass, and just ready to blow the barn door off. And that's what they did. I mean, that one long pass to make it 27-6. Oh, they had the D-backs turned around. It was just, wow. I looked at my wife and I said, it's over. It's halftime, and I'm thinking, there's no way. Maybe if they get the ball back, they stop them. They made a couple of stops, but they'd get down there, they would make some plays, and then Georgia's defense just stiffened right up. It was 27-3, I'm sorry, at halftime. And I just was mesmerized by it. Mesmerized. We'll talk more about that in the second hour of our show. But right now, let's go to our Captain Lou Extravaganza guest line. And let's bring in an old friend of the show. I haven't had him on in a while, but it's great to be able to have him on, talk a little hockey. Colin Roberts joining us. Colin, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Lou. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Happy New Year to you. And I'm sure it's great to be playing some hockey again.
It is. We've had about 5 or 6 weeks off, and it's good to have the break in between semesters. The boys enjoy it, go home, visit some family, finish off finals. But I think I speak for all of us. We're really itching to get back to it. We've got a couple games this weekend against the University of Florida, and then we head into Savannah next week. So everybody's super excited to take on the second semester and hopefully have a good finish to the season.
We'll talk more about the Savannah Classic in a minute, because I know it's a lot of fun to be a part of. You guys are 12-5 so far, I believe, coming into the year, and or coming into this weekend rather. And it's talk about, Colin, the transition after what everybody's gone through the last couple of years with COVID. It's been a mess for everybody. But talk about how the kids have handled it and how the season has been so far for your first semester.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of back up to the start of COVID, heading into last season.
Uh-huh.
And we had a huge season planned. We had some graduating seniors that were key parts of our team, and really the whole season, like everybody else, just got pulled out from under us. And we were lucky enough, with strict protocols and conjunction with the school, to continue on practicing for the majority of the season. We had 70 or 75 practices last year and finished off the season with 4 exhibition games. We played a game against Georgia, a couple against Tennessee, and one against Auburn. And it was really interesting to watch that dynamic unfold. You'd think that guys wouldn't be as dedicated, but I think, just having the break away from the madness that has been COVID over the last couple of years, that was kind of everyone's escape, was to get to the rink and just, see their teammates, see their friends, go out there and have a little bit of a release and something to help their mental health. So, last year was a bit of an interesting year. Obviously, we were able to fit in 4 games at the end of the season. And then this year, we came into it really fresh and looking forward to a successful season. And fingers crossed, we've been very lucky from a COVID standpoint. We haven't had any outbreaks, and we've had a fairly normal season so far. And fingers crossed going into second semester that continues. But I think for everybody involved, it's just been a breath of fresh air to be able to get back on the ice, have a normal season, have these intense rivalries that we have in the South, and just getting back to what we all love to do, and that's to play hockey and be involved in the game of hockey.
You know, what's funny is when you and I have talked about this before, but you mentioned the rivalries that you guys have down there. I mean, it's intense. You know, people don't think of Southern hockey with the rivalries that you may have up here in the north, but you guys playing Georgia and Clemson and Florida and Florida State, and those are some intense rivalries that you guys have down there.
I think it's the best kept secret in all of hockey. Honestly, I really do. And, I think we have a lot of northern kids that come down because of the academics involved with Tech. And then they kind of learn about the program, and through recruiting calls that I have, I can educate kids in the program and kind of sway them to come down to Tech. But, it is a really big kept secret, just the rivalries and the experiences that we have down here that may not be present at some of the northern schools up in the Northeast or the upper Midwest. But a lot of those, there's a lot of college pride down here in the Southeast, and that extends to, football, baseball, in our case, hockey, and those rivalries translate from one sport to another. And it's part of what makes hockey in this region special. I really feel that. I think if you talk to the guys, I'll mention UGA for a second, those are some of our most hotly contested but fun environments to play in all year. And not just them, other ACC rivals that we have with Clemson and Florida State. These are big games for the kids and great experiences, and we all.
Oh, let's see here. Oops. Can you hear me all right, Colin?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. There we go. That's on my end. I thought I had my new equipment for 2022 all set to go. There we go. Now, okay, now
just
I can
break
hear
it
you.
in the new equipment for the new year.
There you go.
Work through the wrinkles.
Have to spit on it a little bit, get a little dirt on it. There we go. We're speaking to Colin Roberts, head coach of Georgia Tech hockey. Last time I talked to you, Colin, you weren't the head coach. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah, appreciate it. This is my fifth year with the program. First four of which, first three of which were in assistant capacity, and then last year took on the head coaching role, albeit in a shortened season where we didn't get to play a lot. But this is really the first full year behind the bench, and it's been an honor. There have been a lot of great coaches that have been a part of this program. Greg Stathis, most notably, for a long time with Georgia Tech, and so. It's a great honor, and extremely proud to represent the university and our team.
Tell me a little bit, Colin, some of your leaders on your team this year as you head into the second semester.
Yeah, I mean, we've got our leadership group, I would say, is a mix of people. I mean, we've got some of our top players that wear an A on the team. I'll mention Matthew Connolly. He's our team captain. He's got 32 points in 14 games. I think he's 7th or 8th in the nation in points, and number 3 in points in the Southeast. And all of our offense really drives through him and his line. We've had a graduate transfer from Air Force come in, Ryan Ruley, who's fit right in and had a very prominent role with us and contributed a lot offensively and physically. And he plays with Matt as well. One thing that we've got the last couple of years, game in, game out, is exceptional goaltending. Colin Fessler has maintained his excellence from a couple seasons prior, and has, quite frankly, stole a couple games for us this year, and is just very consistent between the pipes day in, day out. And we've had a couple other people that have jumped into the mix as well. Garrett Schuler is a senior that is graduating this year. And I tell you, for people who are not familiar with Southern hockey, I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better D-man in the Southeast, if not the nation. This guy is an absolute animal, physically, offensively, and a true leader for our team. I mean, he is the guy that gets the room going, and on the ice, he is contributing offensively. He's extremely physical and just a great shutdown D-man. And one other guy that I did want to mention too, we've had a great freshman come in from Bronxville, New York, Earl Gretzinger, another D-man who's fit right in an offensive capacity right away. He's got 21 points in 17 games. Was named Freshman of the Month for November across the nation. So we're very proud of Earl and his early contributions at Tech, and he's fit in right away. But those are some of the key players that we've had in first semester. But what I would really say is one of the key differences that I see with this team as to maybe previous teams that we've had over the last couple of years is I think this group is extremely tight knit. And when I say that everybody's contributing from top to bottom and we have an extremely deep team, I think that's been a huge part of our success this year. I mean, this is a cohesive group that is very tight knit. They work together, they hang out off the ice together, and they're very difficult to play against. So, yeah, we've got some heavy contributors up front, but this is really, really a close knit group and top to bottom, a very deep team.
And you've got an assistant captain I see on your roster from Seoul, South Korea, Min Kim. So did you take a recruiting trip over to South Korea to get him?
I didn't. Min is actually our team president as well as assistant captain.
That's awesome.
Min's a senior as well, and I believe Min came over to the U.S. at 8 or 9 years of age. I could be off by a couple years there. Interesting story with him, though. I mean, we've talked about this in the past on how a kid from South Korea gets involved in hockey, and he tells the story about how in Korea his parents didn't really have any idea about hockey, but one day there was this hockey game on the TV, and his mom was really intrigued by it, and from that point on said, "I'm going to have a boy, and he's going to play hockey." So, eventually when they did move him over to the U.S., got him started in hockey, and he's been a huge contributor to us over the years as well, and one of our graduating seniors that we hope sticks around in the program in some capacity, and has been a really solid player for us over the years.
We're joined by Colin Roberts, head coach at Georgia Tech hockey. They are 12-5 going into the second semester, and one of the things that brought our attention, and I'm really excited about this. I'm glad to see it going again. Is Georgia Tech is involved in the Savannah Classic coming up in a couple of weeks, I believe. And it's an annual event, Colin, and down in Savannah. If I'm not mistaken, you guys packed the house for that weekend. And you guys, Georgia, Florida State, and Florida. Talk a little bit about that, if you would. The excitement of that and the just the amount of the fans that come out and support it.
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody is more excited to have this back than the four teams that are involved in it. I talked about Southern hockey being the best kept secret in the nation, and this is really the pinnacle of our year. And this is believe it or not, the second highest attended college hockey tournament in the country behind the Beanpot, excluding the Frozen Four, and it's pretty intense. I mean, we packed the building. Depending on the game and the night, you're ranging from 6,000 or 7,000 fans in a sold out arena. Awesome. And it's really a first class event. It's not just the fan experience. I mean, we really are treated like celebrities over the 2 days, and it's an incredible experience for all the players involved. And these are just not experiences that are falling off trees and you can go get in your hockey career. It's an amazing thrill for everyone involved. We're super excited to have it back, and yeah, this is going to be the last year at the Savannah Civic Center. We're actually moving next year into, I think it's called the Enmarket Center, which is a new ECHL rink that's being built across the road, and so top-notch new facility. Yeah. A little bit higher capacity, so this is going to be the last one at the Civic Center, and then we'll move into a brand new building next year. But it's just really an incredible experience. Tons of fans, tons of media coverage. And it's not just a Savannah event; like it is a regional event where people are traveling in from Metro Atlanta, from Florida, descend on Savannah for the weekend, and take in some great hockey games. So, really looking forward to it, and hopefully we can come out with a good result on the 15th of January.
Now, I know you guys play Florida State that weekend on Friday night, and then you play Georgia. What do you expect out of those two teams?
We haven't seen Florida State this year, so they're a bit of an unknown for us. They did play in a tournament in Macon that we were a part of. I don't think we can take much away from that. They were missing a huge part of their roster due to COVID and other reasons. So not really representative probably of the team they are. So this will be our first time playing them this year. So a little bit of an unknown there. Georgia, we've played 3 times this year. We've been lucky enough to come out on the fortunate side of that twice out of the 3 games, but we know exactly what to expect out of those guys, and it's the same thing that since I've been at Tech over the last 5 years. And what you're going to expect is you're going to expect a very tight game that is physical, that is tight checking, and either team could win. And this is really the game that we circle on the calendar, and I'm sure that they do too. I mean, you want to walk out of Savannah with the Thrasher Cup, and a lot of times, in a lot of years, it'll come down to that game, which is the last out of the 4. So we know we'll get their best game. We've beat them the last 2 times that we've played them. They got us in Atlanta in our home game. So I expect their best effort. They're gonna want to bounce back from their 2 defeats. So we'll be ready for that challenge. We're prepping this week and next for it, but expect a very hard physical game out of them.
Well, finally, before I let you go, you guys are in the College Hockey Federation, and I know the ultimate goal is to get to Philadelphia. Is that something that you're shooting for? I know it's one game at a time, and you don't like to look ahead, but I know it's in the back of your head now. Tell us, if you would, just maybe the format of how that is for those of us that aren't super familiar with that.
Yeah, so it really comes in stages for us, right? I mean, we first have to qualify for our conference hockey tournament, which is the SCCHC, and so right now, and that's really determined. It's a top 8 seeding out of conference play, so all the SCCH teams top 8 in conference play will make it. Right now, out of our 12-5 record, we're undefeated in conference play, so we're 5-0 there. And have 11 conference games this year. So first and foremost, we got to qualify for the SCCHC tournament. If we're successful in doing that, which I fully expect we will be with a strong second semester, then a strong showing there, and the South gets 4 automatic bids into the national tournament, and then there's a potential for 2 at-larges. So there are a lot of great teams in our conference. Georgia's one, FAU's one. There are others that we're competing for, but I think we're right there with any team in the Southeast, if not the nation. And I've told our guys time and time again that everything we want to accomplish is in front of us, and we've done everything that we need to up to this point to get there. And Tampa's another team that is very strong and ranked, I think, number 2 in the nation right now for CHF, and we were lucky enough to beat them at home, and have beat Georgia twice as well, who are another top 10 team in the nation. So, when we're firing all cylinders and we've got our full lineup, I would put us up against anyone, and I think it's completely realistic for us to not only make the national tournament, but to do well and have a great showing there as well.
Well, Colin, like we said earlier, Southern hockey is probably one of the best kept secrets, and I've seen enough of your teams over the year down there, and I've watched you guys, and it's definitely a great brand of hockey, and I look forward to following you guys the rest of the year. Good luck down in Savannah. Good luck this weekend against Florida, and then good luck down in Savannah. That's going to be such an awesome time for you guys. Give them hell down there, and we appreciate you coming on the show tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. Appreciate it anytime, and I'm certainly looking forward to Savannah. So anybody that is listening, come on out. Tickets are available on Ticketmaster January 14th and 15th at the Savannah Civic Center, and I can promise you will not be disappointed. Some great entertaining hockey and a tremendous atmosphere, and a little bit of a release from everybody that's been cooped up over the past couple of years.
All right, Colin, good luck, and we'll talk to you down the road. Thanks again for coming on.
Anytime, Lou. Thank you.
You bet. Colin Roberts, head coach of Georgia Tech hockey here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And I got to vouch for him. That Savannah Classic is amazing. I've seen pictures. I haven't been there. It's on my bucket list, believe it or not, to go, because Savannah's just a beautiful town. I keep telling my wife we've got to set aside that weekend to go down there. They indeed get 6,000 to 7,000 people in that rink, in that barn, for Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Florida. It's rivalry weekend. It's so much fun. They have their own version of the world's largest cocktail party with Georgia and Florida playing, and then the Georgia Tech and Florida State, and then the in-state rivalries on Saturday. It is some great hockey. So if you're in that area, Mike, I know from 12-ounce sports, he lives there. Got to check it out, man. It is indeed a great brand of hockey, and it's a lot of fun. The atmosphere is phenomenal. You see pictures, like I said, from it. It's a packed house, and it's a cool place to watch a hockey game, and it's a beautiful facility. Like I said, it's a gorgeous facility. So thanks to Colin for coming on the show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the college football championship game here on the 12-ounce sports Captain Lou Extravaganza. And again, coming up in about 10 minutes, Dylan Hebert from the World Elite podcast and the Domefield podcast. We're going to talk football. We're going to talk a little pro wrestling with him. We got a lot left to talk about. I should say in the final half hour of our show, we'll have the Captain Lou 6-pack challenge. So don't go anywhere. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza live. You're on the 12-ounce sports platform and networks and Zingo TV channel 761.
Ounce Sports has a new home for betting. BetUS.com is the official place to place your bets and support 12-ounce sports. All you have to do is go to BetUS.com and type in the promo code 120ZE and you'll instantly get a deposit bonus. This is America's favorite sports book. And remember, always gamble responsibly.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the 12-ounce sports network and Zingo TV channel 761. Again, thank you to Colin Roberts, the head coach of Georgia Tech hockey, coming on, talking about the Savannah Classic coming up in less than 2 weeks here on in January down in Savannah, Georgia. Georgia Tech, Florida State. Some great hockey, some great college hockey down there. As he mentioned, besides the Beanpot and the Frozen Four, that is the most attended hockey tournament in the country. They get 6,000 to 7,000 people both nights. So some great hockey. I can't say it enough. Check it out. It really is a good show. It's a great brand of hockey. Well, we still have Dylan Hebert scheduled to join us in about 8 minutes, and so we'll lead up to that again by talking about the national championship game. We talked about Georgia and Michigan, that contest, the second semifinal. Alabama and Cincinnati, it's amazing how some things change, but some stay the same. Bryce Young, they didn't have to rely on him. Robinson came through, what did he have, 200 and some yards? Another dimension that Georgia's going to have to deal with. But I just love the Nick Saban game plan. He just stuck with it. He was methodical. Their defense stopped with some NFL caliber wideouts and a good offense. And right away you hear that Cincinnati doesn't belong in the group of, the group of 5 doesn't belong. I don't know if I buy that. Again, I go back what I said about Georgia and Michigan. There's the top 2 SEC teams, maybe LSU up here or Texas A&M occasionally, and then there's everybody else down here. Would Cincinnati have been undefeated in the Big Ten? I doubt it. Would, I look at that Alabama team, and, again, when the chips are down and the spotlight's on, it's hard to bet against Nick Saban. Now, they've been less than dominant against some of the other teams. Obviously, they lost to Texas A&M. Arkansas took them to the brink. Auburn should have beat them if their coach would have been smart and if that kid would have not ran out of bounds. But ifs and buts. Alabama's back there. And whenever you count Nick Saban out with the rat poison or whatever you want to call it, they're back and they're there. They're poised to win another national championship. Are they going to do it? Again, I'll give you my prediction in the last half hour of the show when I do my Captain Lou 6-pack challenge. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be right in front of the television set Monday night with the popcorn or the potato chips, whatever you want to call it, ready to rock and roll watching that game. It's going to be a great culmination to what I think was a good year of college football. It's exciting. And I don't buy the narrative of how the college football games, the bowl games were weak. Did anybody watch the Rose Bowl? Utah and Ohio State. It's with all the opt-outs, you kind of wondered what Ohio State mindset was going to be there. But, one hell of a game there, wasn't it? 48-45. Give credit to Ohio State. I thought Utah was going to beat them. I really did. But give Stroud credit. Obviously, what did he have? 574 yards passing. He put himself into the Heisman conversation again for next year. He's going to be right there. His stock went up. Some of these other games, got to give my alma mater some love. How about those Chippewas? They get their bowl game canceled. Boise State opts out because of COVID. They've got nowhere to go. They're already down there in Arizona, getting ready for the Arizona Bowl or whatever, the Bleacher Report Bowl, whatever you want to call it. They go over and play in the Sun Bowl against Washington State, Pac-12. And what do? They jump out to a big lead, 21-0 in the first half. Hang on for dear life, but they won. Kudos to Central Michigan and the MAC, showing their dominance over the Pac-12, beating Washington State by 3. But I got to gloat, man. My Chippewas, they won. In another game, Michigan State and Pitt, obviously the big names weren't playing. Pickett and Walker for Pitt and Michigan State respectively. Still turned out to be a decent game, but you knew when the other quarterback went down and they were down to their third-string quarterback, Michigan State was going to win that one. They did their best not to at times, but they won. So it was a good bowl season. A lot of good, you talk about the opt-outs too. Is it Matt Corral from Ole Miss? Should he have not played? You're going to hear that now. But I look at it this way. I don't blame the guys for not playing. I wish they would. But you're going to see this now, the cautionary tale. Jake Butt from Michigan, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. And now Corral, will see what he does, how far he may drop in the draft. If it's a broken bone or whatever, that'll heal. But it's funny, what I'm wondering is, you see the top 2 rookies right now in the NFL, Jamar Chase and, the linebacker for the Cowboys from Penn State. They didn't play their senior year to prep for it. Look, so how many more athletes are going to do that? That's what I'm worried about. And of course, you got the transfer portal and the NIL. Things are definitely in flux in college football right now. I don't know if it's for the good or not, but you're going to see a bidding war. The quarterback from Alabama, Williams, he put himself out for recruitment. Does he go to USC? Does he follow Lincoln Riley? Does he take the money and go to an SEC school? You know, they're going to be offering him millions of NIL money. I guarantee it. That's how they operate down there. It's within the rules now. Now it's legal. So they can do it legally now. I don't see an Ohio State doing it. I don't see a Michigan doing it. He's looking at the best place for him and his future in the NFL. Lincoln Riley is the man right now. Will he follow him? I got a feeling he will follow him to USC. But you're seeing players now that go, like they're going to go to one school. They verbally, now they're going to it's chaos. It's free agency in college football. We talked about it. And it's here to stay. Whether it's good or bad, who knows? I don't know if it is or not. Well, let's go now back to our guest line. We'll stick with the football theme here as we bring in a return guest to the show from the Dome Field podcast and the World Elite podcast, Dylan Hebert joining us. Dylan, Happy New Year. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me back on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, it's the pleasure's all mine, man. Let's get right into it. We got a lot to cover here tonight. I want to start out with your New Orleans Saints. I didn't think they had a snowball's chance in hell to make the playoffs, but the latest projection I see is they got a 40% chance. First, they got to take care of business in Atlanta. But, man, I got a feeling they got a decent shot at sneaking in there at that 7th seed.
Of course, yeah, the odds are in our favor right now because all we need right now is for the Saints to beat Atlanta this weekend, and then we need the 49ers to lose, and they're playing the Rams in Los Angeles, who are one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL. So right now, the odds are in the Saints' favor. So honestly, I could see more Saints making the playoffs more than the 49ers getting that last wild card spot. So everything's looking up right now for the Saints.
You know, Dylan, it's funny is if you'd have told me last week with Ian Book starting at quarterback for you guys down there that we would be talking about the playoffs tonight, I'd have thought you're crazy.
Yeah, same here. That was an ugly game, but given all the things the Saints were going through, I kind of expected a game like that. You know, so many guys out on COVID. Ian Book was inactive basically the entire season, and randomly he's thrown in there as the starting quarterback. So of course, I mean, this was going to be an ugly game against Miami, and we just so happened to be right about it, that it was an ugly game. But then you get to Carolina, who is on a downward spiral, who they always start off pretty well, and then they end that season pretty bad. So with Taysom coming back as quarterback, who I'm really not huge on as quarterback, but given that he's our best option at quarterback, I guess I have to ride with it. So just going to Atlanta next week. Of course, they're going to try to play spoiler and knock us out of that playoff contention. I think we're shaping up for a good NFC South matchup this upcoming weekend.
Well, Dylan, I look at your team, you know, the Saints going into that matchup, and obviously their strength, in my opinion, is the defensive side of the ball. And I look at the roster, and you've got one starter that's questionable, that being Marcus Williams. It looks like you're relatively healthy. I don't want to jinx anybody, but you look relatively healthy going in on the defensive side of the ball against the Falcons.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And we were down Marcus Williams our last game because he was put on COVID, and then he was activated, but due to illness, he still had to miss.
Okay.
So, but the defense is really strong right now, and the Saints have one of the better defenses that I've seen in past years. And it's all dating back to 2017 that I've seen this defense really get good and a lot better than what I've seen from previous years, you know, prior to 2017, you know, bringing in a really good draft class. And you have some players that are in either a rookie season and sophomore season, whatever. They are looking really good. They have One guy in particular I'm really high on right now, and that's C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's the highlights was when he got in Tom Brady's face in that game against Tampa Bay. So he's that guy I'm really highlighting right now on that Saints defense. But Cam Jordan's finally waking up on the defensive end side. So the Saints defense is coming together at a really good time because we need them to right now.
We're speaking with Dylan Hebert from the Dome Field Podcast and World Elite Podcast here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, talking a little Saints football as they've all of a sudden, they're looking like they've got a pretty decent shot at maybe sneaking into that 7th seed. And after that, you never know when you get in, man, because I know a certain Saints team that has a certain Tampa Bay's team's number. And those two teams were to meet in the first round. But we'll worry about that next week. Alvin Kamara, he's Alvin Kamara. He's the go-to guy. Somebody else on the offensive side of the ball, Dylan, tell me who's got to step up besides Taysom and Alvin Kamara to make it so you're going to have to give San Francisco something to think about at 4:25 Eastern on Sunday.
Well, to sound like, kind of sound like a broken record, because I remember I talked about it the last time I appeared on your show, and it was pretty much the entire wide receiving core. No one's stepping up. Taysom is doing all he can, but it seems like he has to rely on his legs more than on his arm because, no one's stepping up on that wide receiving end of things. We got Marquez Callaway, who seems like he hasn't been able to step up the entire season. And it sucks that we're down our top guy in such a crucial moment of the season with Michael Thomas. We haven't had him all season long. But, other guys like I know Deontay Harris is coming back very soon, which, that's a big that's a speedster right there. He's a good deep threat. And, we got Traquan Smith. And then you look at the tight end side of things, Nick Vannett, Jawan Johnson, Adam Troutman. Somebody's got to step up other than Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. But the thing with Alvin Kamara is it's kind of hard to be who he is right now, being that we're so short for our offensive line. Everyone's down with either an injury, out on COVID, and I just kind of feel like he really can't break out too well if he don't have his regular offensive lineman out there to support him.
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say then that the defense is going to have to be the star of the game. It's one of those things, you go into the game, you're favored, but yet you just, you don't know. And I'm going to go with the Saints because I think, they got more to play for. Cordell Patterson scares me a little bit against you guys, but, a team that I look at it this way, a team that Detroit took right to the wire and should have beat with their backup quarterback, I think you guys got a pretty decent shot.
I think so too. And honestly, I think anyone who can dive into this little scenario between the 49ers making it and the Saints making it, I really think they would go with New Orleans to make it over San Francisco, given the teams that they're playing this weekend.
Yeah, because the Rams have something to play for. They want to get first place. And Jimmy G, we don't know if he's playing. His thumb, they don't even know if he can grip a football yet. I read that or watched that earlier tonight. And so I like your chances. And so, I think it's going to be very interesting for sure. I got to ask you, though, about a little bit more about the Saints. Obviously, we're going to hear this now in the off season. Do you think you guys make a splash on going after Russell Wilson type quarterback, or what is your gut? I know it's early, but what is your gut on January 4th as far as making a splash, making a run at another quarterback? Because Taysom, I'm sorry to say, isn't the answer.
No, he's not the answer. We all learned this a long time ago, and it's kind of crazy enough that some Saints fans in the preseason wanted Taysom starting over Jameis. Huh. And now they're seeing what a horrible mistake that they made by saying that. But now the real thing is that best case scenario, you miss out on a top free agent or even making a big splash in the trading markets. I say you go back after Jameis, let
Okay.
him recover, because I believe he's on a 1-year deal. So I think you re-sign him back and you let him continue what he was doing before his horrible injury. But honestly, the best case scenario for me is to go after Russell Wilson. I think the Saints need to be in win now mode, because you're going to be getting Michael Thomas back next season. You have Alvin Kamara. Let's say you in free agency, like you make a big splash at wide receiver, go after somebody. The Saints could be a dangerous team next year. So I think the Saints need to go in win now mode, just kind of like how the Rams are doing.
Yeah.
They're trading all these picks to get everybody on their team, and right now it's honestly paying off for them. So I think the Saints need to make that kind of splash in the offseason by trading for Russell Wilson, because I do believe that we watched his last game in Seattle this past weekend.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think both of them up there are gone. I think you could see just a gutting in Seattle here very
Hmm.
soon. Hey, Dylan, I want to ask you down the road. Obviously, one of the big things that happened in college football over the last month or so is the surprise hiring of Brian Kelly down in Baton Rouge. How did that take you by surprise? And what's been the vibe down there with Mr. Kelly now a Tiger?
Oh, for one, I was very stunned when I saw the news, because honestly, I was seeing all kind of names being swirled around, and I know we talked about it last time
Yeah,
how the main guy I wanted was Lane Kiffin. I was very high on Kiffin, and out of nowhere, we hired Brian Kelly, and at first I wasn't too big on it, but then I mean, of course, I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, well, maybe he's the winningest coach at Notre Dame. But the thing is, Notre Dame wasn't really in a conference to where they're playing these top teams. So it's really going to test Brian Kelly to see can he beat an Alabama? Can he beat these top SEC teams? So I think coming to Baton Rouge is really going to test him to see how good of a head coach he really is. So the more I think about it, I think I like the hire of Brian Kelly at first, because I didn't at first. So, but honestly, I think he's shaping up a really good coaching staff at LSU, and the thing is, I'm just excited to see what he does in Baton Rouge, because Coach O wasn't doing it for us, and it's obvious that he had one good season, but look who we had at quarterback.
yeah.
So, because I always said Joe Burrow made who Coach O was, because without him, it just seems like it was a big failure from here on out. But I'm just excited to see what Brian Kelly is going to offer us.
You hit on something as far as recruiting. That's what I want to watch because he's had his way in South Bend, and he could recruit the name Notre Dame. And also what you touched on was they didn't play a conference schedule. And you can say what you want. I think their schedule in the last couple of years was less than stellar. They
Hmm.
played Cincinnati and got trucked pretty much on
Yeah.
in their own stadium. That's what I want to keep an eye on because now he's with the big boys. He wants the challenge. He's got it, and LSU's used to winning. They're used to
Mhm.
being in that limelight. I'm really interested from a recruiting standpoint who he's going to get to match up with the big boys.
Oh, for sure. And it's just going to be a big test. Like I said, it's going to be a huge test for him, just to see how good he can really coach, because we saw him at Notre Dame, but like I just mentioned, they didn't
Yeah.
really play a conference schedule, so they had all these cupcake games that they barely struggled to make it. So just see how he can match up against teams like Alabama, like Texas A&M, these higher powered SEC teams. So I think it's going to be a true test for him.
So who do you got Monday night with the SEC championship game part 2 for all the marbles? Who do you got, Georgia or Alabama?
I really think Georgia's going to answer back from the
Mhm.
SEC title. Because whenever I was talking about the SEC title game before, I said Georgia was going to dog walk them. I said because LSU, I believe, exposed Alabama, and I will go to my grave with this, because Alabama looked horrible against LSU, and LSU was I forgot the point spread for that game, but we were determined to get our crap kicked out of us, But the thing is that LSU almost beat them.
Yeah.
So I said they exposed them, and I said Georgia was going to beat them pretty bad. And Alabama, I mean, they answered back and they really beat them. So I really think that Georgia is going to answer back and they're going to win the national championship.
It's kind of hard to argue with that. It's tough to beat a team twice in a row. In Georgia, I tell you, it's funny when what I said before the Michigan game. I thought, one of two things. One of the obviously two things is going to show up. The Georgia team, maybe they were still just gut punched by Alabama and didn't know how to recover. They're going to come out pissed off, and we saw what team showed up. So
Yeah.
I tend to lean your way. All right, Dylan, I want you to put the football away. I want you to get out the boots and the trunks. Let's talk a little pro wrestling while I got you on here. Day one. Now, I know that Roman Reigns had COVID, so he couldn't wrestle, he couldn't perform. So they threw Brock Lesnar into the Fatal 5-Way. What are your initial thoughts on him winning the strap from Big E in that match?
Well, honestly, if I'm gonna give my thought on it, it's more to what people aren't saying right now, because a lot of people are mad that Brock won, because I mean, if you look at recent history, he's more of a part-time champion. But honestly, this is the best I've seen Brock Lesnar in a long time. When he came back at SummerSlam, I believe, he had a whole different look. He had a ponytail, he had a big beard. It's something that we're not used to seeing from Brock Lesnar. So this is one of my favorites of seeing Brock Lesnar. He's interacting with the crowd more. He's more of a baby face. But I read something on the internet the other day saying that the initial plan was for Big E to retain.
Wow.
So I really think adding Brock to that match, kind of switching things up last minute, kind of gave the fans more of what they wanted. Because I really think it was going to be more of a dull ending, because if Big E retains and Roman retains, that doesn't really give the crowd something to be excited over, because we all knew what was going to happen. Because my initial prediction was for Kevin Owens to win the title in the Fatal 4-Way, and the initial plan was for Big E to retain. So just makes me think what was going to happen with Big E as the champion going forward into the Royal Rumble and eventually into WrestleMania. But now we're getting Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. That I mean, it's kind of a dream match that we've been wanting to see for years.
Oh, boy.
Between those two. So I think it's going to be a great match at the Royal Rumble. But day one as a whole, I really got to give them their credit. They put on a great show. And for someone like me who's more pro AEW, I really got to say they put on a great show for day one. They really had great matches, had really good endings, very good storytelling, and this makes me excited for the Royal Rumble.
I am too, and it's going to be interesting to see. I'm with you. What I'm excited to see out of Brock and Bobby Lashley, I think you and I may have touched on this last time you were on, is for the size of Bobby Lashley, he's very nimble. He's not a plotter, which I like. And Brock Lesnar to me isn't either. I think that they can put on a good story, and I'm very interested to see how that outcome is. And I don't know, is there anything else that right now that we should look for, in your opinion, for Royal Rumble that could be a highlight besides that match?
Well, the only two confirmed matches right now is Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, and then they have an intergender tag match.
That's right.
And Beth Phoenix taking on Maurice and The Miz. Then they're going to have, I believe, a triple threat on Monday Night Raw next week to determine Becky Lynch's next challenger between, I believe, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, and Doudrop. So that's another match we have to look forward to.
Well, good. That sounds like they're setting it up. And, of course, we got SmackDown Friday night. Brock said he's going to be there on SmackDown Friday. So that'll be a little interesting twist to see what happens there. And I got to tell you, the match that the Usos and the New Day, I thought, put on one hell of a tag match.
Yeah, they always do.
Isn't that something?
Every time they go at it, the Usos and the New Day, they always put on great matches. So, yeah.
So, real quick, we'll turn your attention to AEW Wednesday night on TBS's premiere of Dynamite. We've got Brian Danielson again, and his champion. He's going to go up. Oh gosh, why is his name? I'm drawing an absolute blank. Adam Page
Yes.
for the strap. Were you number one? Were you a fan of the Broadway match they had the first time they wrestled? How did you like that?
Oh, absolutely. And it went to a time draw. 60 minutes they
Yeah,
were in the ring for the entire first hour of Dynamite. They were just tearing each other apart, and I was a big fan of it. A lot of people weren't a huge fan of the ending, being that there was no winner. Went to a time draw. But the thing is, I already knew that they were going to go at it again at some point. So a time draw ending didn't bother me whatsoever.
me either. I loved it. It was a great throwback, in my opinion, to the days when Ric Flair and all these wrestlers used to do the Broadways.
Mhm.
Harley Race, Dusty Rhodes, Nikolai Volk, or Nikita Koloff, and you
Yeah.
name it. It just brought back some good memories for me watching wrestling. 30 some years ago.
Mhm.
So they're going to wrestle Wednesday night. In your mind, what are if I had to give you a percentage, what is the percentage that Brian Danielson takes the strap away from Adam Page?
Oh man, this is a tough one because it's kind of more of a coin flip for me to see who's
Okay.
going to win. Because Hangman, I really don't feel like he has had the longest reign since winning the title at Full Gear in November. So that was his first title defense at Winter is Coming against Brian Danielson. So this is only his second title defense. So I'm honestly looking more at a 60-40 ratio when it comes to Brian Danielson winning the title.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm gonna be front and center watching it tomorrow night.
Oh yeah,
I have no idea who's gonna win that one. That's a great prediction.
yeah.
Anything else to look forward to for AEW tomorrow night to keep an eye on?
Oh man, I just saw the card before I got on here with you, and honestly, oh wait, yeah, they have the Lucha Bros, who are the AEW Tag Champs,
Mm-hmm.
and they are taking on. Why I cannot remember. Oh, they're fighting Jurassic Express,
Okay.
Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. That's the only match and they're having the TBS title finals. It's a mid card championship for the women's division. It's Jade Cargill and Ruby Soho. They're fighting for the TBS title since it's their TBS debut tomorrow.
Well, look forward to a great show tomorrow night. Dylan, hey, this has been an absolute treat. Before you go, tell us where we can find your work.
Oh, of course. You can find my personal Twitter account at Real Dylan Aber. You can find the wrestling podcast at World Elite Pod, and then of course our Twitter page for the Saints. You can find us at Domefield Pod.
Well, it's going to be an exciting weekend for you. Good luck for you in New Orleans. I got a sneaking suspicion. I hope I'm not putting the Maloik on you, but I think we're going to be watching you on Wild Card Weekend. But enjoy the games, enjoy the wrestling matches tomorrow night, and look forward to having you on again down the road.
All right, thanks so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to being back on.
All right, Dylan, thank you. Dylan Aber from the World Elite Podcast and the Domefield Podcast, talking New Orleans Saints, joining us here on the Extravaganza. Yeah, New Orleans, I got to tell you, it's so funny because, we talked about it. You look at their offense and it just does not look intimidating, like they're going to be there. With Taysom Hill at quarterback, he's had his chances. The best thing you could say about him right now is he's managing the game. But they're going to have to rely on that defense. They sneak in at the 7 seed. I as much as I would like to see they got a chance against Tampa, I just don't see it. But you never know, unless they end up playing LA or something. It's not going to be Dallas. Dallas doesn't scare me at all. They're so one-dimensional, on offense. It's whatever. So anyways, I look for New Orleans to get in with that 7 seed. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes from there. Well, thanks, Dylan Aber for coming on, and of course, talking a little pro wrestling. We always like to do that from time to time here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll start talking more NFL. We'll go through the scenarios. Who's got a chance to get in yet in the playoffs? We'll take a look at the standings and the big games coming up in weeks 18 And then, of course, we'll have our Captain Lou six-pack challenge. So don't go anywhere. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the 12-ounce sports platform and networks and the Zingo TV, channel 761. Don't go anywhere.
Ounce Sports has a new home for betting. BetUS.com is the official place to place your bets and support 12-ounce sports. All you have to do is go to BetUS.com and type in the promo code 120Z and you'll instantly get a deposit bonus. This is America's favorite sports book. And remember, always gamble responsibly.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on the 12-ounce sports platform and networks. That includes Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, our YouTube channel, of course, our website, 12ouncesportsradio.com, and Zingo TV channel 761. Again, want to thank Dylan Hebert for coming on the show, talking a little New Orleans Saints football, a little bit of LSU football with the arrival of Brian Kelly, the new savior of LSU football. We'll see if he can keep up with the likes of Eddie O and Les Miles and, of course, Nick Saban, all bringing national championships to LSU. It's going to be some big shoes to fill for Brian Kelly, but I think he might be able to do it. So we'll see. It's going to be a big task, a little different in SEC country than being a quasi-independent, and then 5 conference games with probably the weakest of the Power 5 conferences, that being the ACC in football. So we want to thank Dylan for joining us. And also we want to take a moment to thank you for being a part of our show, joining us here on the program. Without you watching and participating with us, it's not possible here on 12-ounce sports. So we want to take a time out to thank you, the viewer, for checking us out, even for a few minutes, listening and watching some of our interviews with some of our shows here on the network. Not just here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, but with the Burn with Mitch, the first half of the dynamic duo on Tuesday nights. My tag team partner, if you will. Great show earlier tonight with him, with Mark Gubiza coming on, the ex-MLB player for the Royals and the Angels, taking time out with Mitch. We've got Philly Pete with his great show Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Cody Jansen with World Hockey Report. And the boys in the morning, Mike and Aaron doing the AM Drive. You got the Rome Show on Monday mornings, recapping what's going on in the world of sports from the weekend. The sports guys, Minor League Rando, and I know I'm missing a few, but I apologize. Gracie's show on Wednesday. We couldn't be doing this without you. So I want to make sure to thank you, the viewer, for taking time out and letting us be a part of your day or night here on 12-ounce sports. Hey, you saw in the commercial, by the way, check out BetUS. one of the sponsors here, the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Go to 12ouncesportsradio.com/BetUS. It'll take you right to their website. And once you see it and you see a couple of games that you might want to bet on, make your first deposit. But make sure you use the promo code 120Z. It's right there on the screen. If you use that for your first deposit, you get a 125% bonus match. So if you put $100 in, they're going to give you an extra 125 to bet with. Excuse me, that's free money. That's $225 you could play with, possibly win some gorgonzola, some cheese, if you will. Put that down. You could bet on maybe the big game on Monday night, Georgia and Alabama. I'm not going to tell you who I'm voting for or who I think is going to win. That's coming up here in the last half hour of our show. But check out betus.com. It's safe, it's easy, and they got some great games. If you don't want to bet on sports, they got some great casino games there as well. Let It Ride, Pai Gow, you name it. It's a fun website, as I mentioned. That's BetUS. So check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Well, we talked about, before we went to the break, we're going to take a look at some of the NFL scenarios. We'll take a look at the standings right now. Let's first go to the NFC. Green Bay has clinched the number 1 seed in the NFC. So they really have nothing to play for this weekend against the Lions. The big question in that game on Sunday is how much is Aaron Rodgers and company going to play? Matt LaFleur says that they're going to start, they're going to play. I got a feeling you might only see him for a half. Who knows? I mean, just depends on how his toe is, that being Aaron Rodgers. So Green Bay's got the number 1 seed locked up. They're my odds-on favorite to win the whole thing. I think they're playing the most complete brand of football right now in the NFL. Now, I can see why Matt LaFleur doesn't want to sit them too much, because he essentially does not want them to go 3 weeks without playing. So I could see where they play a half. And, neither team really has anything to play for. The Lions, I believe, have the second pick pretty much sewed up for the draft next year, unless Jacksonville pulls off the unexpected and wins against Indianapolis. So, anyways, Green Bay's got the number 1 seed, so there's still some things to play for. Tampa Bay, I believe, has the tie break for the 2nd seed against Los Angeles. Or I beg your pardon, Los Angeles has that. If they end up tied, Los Angeles would get the 2nd seed, and Tampa would get the 3rd seed. Then, of course, I think the best Dallas can do is the 3rd seed. So those divisions are pretty much, the 3 divisions are wrapped up. Los Angeles wins, they win the division. Arizona wins and LA loses. I think Arizona wins the tiebreak on that one. I'm just taking a look at the division record. Yes, that's indeed how it would be, because Arizona would be 5-1, LA would be 3-3. So they would win on the tiebreak. So Arizona's clinched a spot. They would be the 5 seed, and right now it looks like they'd be going to Dallas, and it would be a rematch of the game last week. Arizona, they showed me something last week going there. The way they've been playing, the way Detroit handled them, you think, I don't know, is it fool's gold or what? But Dallas, to me, is fool's gold right now with their one-dimensional offense. Zeke Elliott just, you could tell he's lost a step. How much can Dak Prescott carry that team on offense? He's the leading rusher right now, and that's kind of scary. So it leaves us with the 6th and 7th seed to talk about. Philadelphia's got a spot clinched. Right now, they'd be the 7th seed. It comes down to San Francisco and New Orleans. San Francisco's got to go to L.A. L.A. needs to win the division. They've clinched a playoff spot, like I said, but they need to win the division. So they're going to play to win. Atlanta plays New Orleans. New Orleans is 8-8. New Orleans wins and San Francisco loses. New Orleans gets the tiebreak because their conference record would be better than San Francisco's. San Francisco would be 7-5. New Orleans they would be 6-6. New Orleans would be 7-5. they would get the tiebreak scenario. And like we said with Dylan Hebert, our guest here in the last segment of the show, I think New Orleans has got a puncher's chance and then some. First of all, they got to take care of business in Atlanta. And you never know, Atlanta would like nothing better than to be the spoiler. They can't get in. They'd be 8-9 tied with New Orleans, but they're a formidable foe at home. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, with Cordell Patterson and Matt Ryan, there's some weapons there. With Kyle Pitts, I don't know if I trust their defense, but I hearken back to how they played against the Lions on Christmas weekend. The Lions had that game. So if they can only beat the Lions by 4 points, that's why I think New Orleans has a shot. So I think New Orleans is going to win that game, and I think San Francisco might probably lose. And so you're going to see New Orleans as the 7th seed, more than likely playing. If the Rams win, they get the 2 seed. They'll be playing the Rams in the opening round, and then the Eagles would be going to Tampa. And I don't know if I'd want to play the Eagles if I'm Tampa. Tampa's run defense is not very good. And that's what pretty much what Philadelphia does. So I don't know. I'd go with Tampa. And so then you're looking at a scenario probably of Arizona and Dallas. I mean, I still think I wouldn't bet against Tampa. But boy, it's going to be fun to watch this weekend to see how that sets up. And then, of course, wild card weekend the following weekend. There's going to be some good games. Let's go to the AFC for their scenarios right now. Buffalo and New England, they're both tied. If they both win, Buffalo wins the division. They got a better division record. New England, if New England, obviously, if one of them wins, they clinch it as well. So the tiebreak scenario on that goes to Buffalo if they remain tied. Because if they both win or both lose, Buffalo gets the tiebreaker because they'll have either a 4-2 or a 5-1 record, whereas New England would be 3-3 or 4-2. Cincinnati clinched the AFC North. Wow, Joe Burrow, almost 1,000 yards passing in the last couple of games. Raise your hand. How many of you thought that Cincinnati would win that division? I think I had him pegged for 5 wins. Boy, was I fooled. Jamar Chase, all he's done is probably solidified himself as Offensive Rookie of the Year. Mac Jones, I don't know if he's lost his cred as being the top rookie. We'll see. It's going to come down to those two, I think. Micah Parsons, who I was talking about the other day, or the last hour of the show, the defensive stud for Dallas that didn't play, along with Jamar Chase in their whole senior year, their last year of eligibility in college football before they decided to go pro. Look where it's gotten them. It's gotten them the top probably. I think Micah Parsons has got a legit beef to be Defensive Player of the Year, not just Rookie of the Year. But anyways, getting back to the conference scenarios, Pittsburgh's 8-7-1. And as bad as they've played at times this year, tying the Detroit Lions, if they beat Baltimore rather, and go to 9-7-1, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. But Indianapolis would have to lose to Jacksonville, and I don't see that happening. So I think Indianapolis is going to win to get to 10-7. They can't win the division, but Baltimore's out at 8-8, and they're 8-8. The best they could be is 9-8. They're already eliminated, so they can't. They're not going to be in it. Well, I take that back. They do have a shot at 9-8, but Indianapolis would have to lose. So the winner of that game would surpass the winner of would surpass Indianapolis if they lose to Jacksonville. But I don't see that happen. I really don't. So Tennessee's got the number 1 seed right now in the AFC. They win, they clinch the number 1 seed. I didn't see that happening either. That's crazy. So, and they might get Derrick Henry back next week for the playoffs. He'd get an extra week to rest. Wow. They could be a formidable foe if they get that number 1 seed. Kansas City leads the AFC West. They clinch a division. It's a winner-go-home scenario for the Chargers and the Raiders. And if I'm not mistaken, if they tie, they're both in. If I'm not mistaken. Let me look at that again. Because, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. If they win, well, I take that back. Indianapolis would have to lose. Indianapolis would be 10-7. So if they tie, I'd have to look it up to see who's got the tie-break scenario between them. But it's a winner go home. It's the last game of the year. Chargers and the Raiders playing in Las Vegas. What an atmosphere that's going to be on Sunday Night Football in Las Vegas with the Chargers and the Raiders duking it out to see who gets potentially the last playoff spot. So you've got Cincinnati with a shot. They have an outside shot to get the number 1 seed. Can you believe that? I don't think it's going to happen. Kansas City and Tennessee, because it could be, crazier things have happened. Tennessee wins, they get the number 1 seed. Then it'll be Kansas City, the number 2 seed. They would probably play the Chargers or the Raiders, obviously. And then you've got Indianapolis would probably end up playing Buffalo, and then Cincinnati would get New England. So some interesting matchups for the opening round of the playoffs. We will get more in depth with those next week, obviously, once the scenarios are set for the NFL playoffs. But those are kind of the scenarios right there. And some of the teams that, we'll talk about it next weekend too. By this time next week, we may have 2 or 3 teams without head coaches. Black Monday's coming. And I could see right now where Matt Nagy probably may be let go. Vic Fangio in Denver might be let go. Mike Zimmer in Minnesota, because they're not making the playoffs. I look at some of these other teams. I think everybody else is pretty much safe. With Jacksonville, obviously, they've got to hire a coach. I don't know how long Houston's head coach is going to be there. 4-12. Hard to say with that one. Because they've had 0 to work with. Davis Mills has been kind of a pleasant surprise, but they have nothing on offense. Nothing. They're in a bad way. Dan Campbell's safe in Detroit. Matt Rule might be showing the door in Carolina. It wouldn't be. I don't know if that's a fair shot or not. Joe Judge apparently is going to be safe in New York. Okay. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week when it comes to that. The coaching carousel will be in motion for sure. So, and some teams that we thought that might be in that are in the, we talked about it briefly with Dylan Hebert. Seattle. I think we've seen the last home game for Russell Wilson in Seattle. Will he be in a New Orleans uniform next year? New York Giants, who knows? Denver, maybe. Cleveland would be a pretty good spot. Does Baker Mayfield, are his days numbered in Cleveland? He's going to have surgery this week on his shoulder. He's done for the year, which I think is smart. Cleveland's got themselves a ready-made lineup they've got some weapons on both sides of the ball. Baker Mayfield, I just don't think is the answer. But Cleveland's kind of they're rocking a hard place kind of a position. They can't draft a quarterback. There really isn't a quarterback out there, I don't think, that just jumps right out at you to be the number 1 seed, a number 1 caliber, playoff caliber quarterback right away for Cleveland. So they're going to have to make a splash. Or they're going to have to sign Baker, and he's going to get at least $30 million, like it or not. So we'll see. I don't know. They're kind of in a tough spot in Cleveland. I didn't think they were an 8-9 team or whatever they are right now, 7-9. I could have swore that, I had them pegged. A lot of people did. With that offense, with that talent on that roster, a lot of us had them pegged as a 11-12 win team. I did. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens there with Cleveland as well. So, well, hey, as promised, it is that time right now. We are down to the last week of the Captain Lou Six-Pack Challenge. Now, how this works, I'm going to put my 6 games up here shortly on the screen. And they're against the spread. 5 games against with the pros, 1 college. It's the national championship game. Your job is to pick these games against the spread better than me. If you do, you're going to be in the drawing for that $100 Visa gift card and the Fanatics gift card. We're going to be giving that away next Tuesday in the first half hour of our show. Our season is over for the Six-Pack Challenge. It's been a lot of fun this year. We've got a lot of people signed up. It's better again this year than it has been in the past, and I thank you. That's why I thank you for taking time out. These games will be posted on my Twitter feed and my Facebook page tomorrow, so you will get one last chance to look at it. 3 ways to enter. Follow me on Twitter, @TheRealCaptainLou. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram, Lewis Gamlin, or drop me an email. And this, again, is what 95% of you have done this year. CaptainLouSports@gmail.com. It's that simple. No purchase necessary, just participation. That's all you got to do. And a reminder that the lines that you use are the lines that I'm using. I got these about 7 o'clock tonight. So, that's the only thing I ask. Obviously there are no Thursday games. I always pick Saturday or Sunday games just to give you a chance to think about it. I don't pick Thursday games. Well, I pick Monday night games occasionally, but obviously there is no Monday night game either. So there we go. So without any further ado, let's give you the last Captain Lou Six-Pack Challenge of the 2021 football season, and let's give you a chance to see who you've got to pick and who I'm picking in the Captain Lou Six-Pack Challenge. First off, we're going to go right to the Sunday night game, the last game of the weekend in pro football, the Chargers and the Raiders. This one I had a hard time. Some of these are difficult. Vegas, Derek Carr's done a hell of a job in Vegas with all the chaos that's gone on this year. What a showing they had against Indianapolis last week, putting themselves in position for this winner-take-all game against the Chargers. Some may say the Chargers have maybe underachieved a little bit. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I like the Chargers to bounce back. I mean, if they won last week, I like them to keep it going. They were my pick to go into the playoffs as a wild card this year, so I got to stick with them. I just think they've got a little too much for Vegas. I'm going to go with the Chargers -3. I think they're going to cover and beat Vegas 28-24. Next up, we talked about this quite often on the show. New Orleans and Atlanta going over to Hot Atlanta. New Orleans has got everything to play for. Atlanta's the spoiler. I know they would love nothing better than to beat New Orleans and squash any playoff hope that they may have. But I think New Orleans has got a defense that's going to carry them in this game. They're going to be able to contain Matt Ryan, and they're going to win. It could be an ugly game. I could see a 20-13 game or a 24-16 game. So I'm taking New Orleans. I'm going to lay the points, 4.5, on the road against Atlanta. I got a feeling in that one. Next up, out on the West Coast, we talked about it. The Rams, with a win, the division is theirs. You don't know how hard Matt Stafford wants to win this game. He's never won a division in the pros. His 3 playoff games with the Lions were all on the road. I still say he had something to do with that in 2017. Him and Jim Caldwell's inability to coach in a big-time game with the Lions when they had it pretty much guaranteed. They win that game at home against Green Bay, they win the division, but I digress. This is a chance for Matt Stafford to make it right. They've got a home game again. They win the division. Matt Stafford does not want to go on the road for the whole road of the playoffs. They got a shot at the number 2 seed yet. So they would get, two home games for the playoffs. But first they got to beat San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo, we don't know if he can even grip a football with his thumb injury. He didn't play last week. If he doesn't play, all bets are off. Well, I mean, the bet's still on here. I'm taking the Rams at home -4. I think they're going to cover easily in this game, and they're going to go to 13-4 and get the number 2 seed in the playoffs. Cincinnati at Cleveland. This game means nothing for Cleveland, obviously. Baker Mayfield's out. Case Keenum is in. Cincinnati has an outside shot at winning this game and getting the number 1 seed. I don't think it's going to happen, but I like Cincinnati in this game because they're going to improve their playoff seeding. They're going to get a home game. And a win, who knows, they could possibly, make it to where they could get 2 home games should Kansas City stub their toe, which I don't think they're going to do, but you never know. Joe Burrow's got him playing well. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, that offense is all of a sudden is a juggernaut. They're going to go to Cleveland and they're going to win. They're going to cover. Cincinnati -3. Last game, New England and Miami. New England all of a sudden is looking a little more human. I know they're 10-6. They're going to the playoffs. They got a scenario where they, obviously they can still win the division, but they've got to have Buffalo lose. And I don't think Buffalo's going to lose to the Jets. I think Miami's going to cover. I don't know if they're going to win. Tua's playing better. Their defense, I think, is going to have the answer for New England. I honestly see Miami winning this game outright. A little momentum going into next year. But I think New England is going to win this one very, very, very slim-like. I could see Miami winning this one on a last-second field goal, like a 20-17 or 24-21 game. So I think Miami covers. I don't know if they're going to win. 6.5 at home. As an underdog, I'll take the Dolphins. So that leads us to our last game that we picked for this year for the Captain Lou Six-Pack Challenge. Georgia and Alabama. Talking to a good friend of the show, Todd Corder, who's been on many times, texting back and forth earlier tonight. He's got Alabama. He thinks Nick Saban is just too much for Kirby Smart. I'm going number 1. The reason I've got Georgia is it's hard to beat a team twice in 1 year. And you've got a Georgia team that I think has got this game penciled in, marked on their calendar ever since they got their asses handed to them against Alabama a few weeks ago, a month ago, whatever it was now. If Georgia plays the way they did against Michigan, they're going to win easily. Now, I know Michigan's not Alabama. I think Alabama's quarterback is better than Stetson Bennett. Bryce Young is better than Bennett. Also, he's better than Cade McNamara. But I just think Georgia's defense is going to respond to that ass whooping they took a month ago. And I just think that this is finally going to be the time Kirby Smart gets the edge on Nick Saban when it counts. Now, am I going to be shocked if Alabama wins? No. Because Nick Saban is like Ric Flair. He's the greatest coach of all time in college football. I don't think there's any doubt. But I just think, Dylan Hebert touched on it in the last, in our last segment with him. They were exposed against LSU. They barely beat Auburn. They barely beat Arkansas, and they got beat by Texas A&M. But they bounced back and crushed Georgia in that championship game. I just think the overall body of work, I think Georgia's going to come in. And they were motivated against Michigan. Kirby Smart deserves a lot of credit. And I think they're still going to be tremendously motivated against Alabama. I like Georgia in this one. There's going to be some points scored maybe, but I'm going to go 31-24 Georgia over Alabama. And Georgia will be a national champion. So there you go. There's my Captain Lou six-pack challenge picks for the week, and my last ones for the year. I got the Chargers covering at Las Vegas. I've got New Orleans covering at Atlanta. I've got the Rams covering at home against San Francisco. I've got Cincinnati going to Cleveland and covering that 3-point spread. Then I've got Miami at home covering 6.5. They're the dogs against New England. And then I've got Georgia covering against Alabama. What do you think of these picks? What say you? Drop me a line, CaptainLouSports@gmail.com, or you can go to follow me on Twitter @TheRealCaptainLou. Follow me on Facebook, Lewis Gamble, on Instagram, the same thing. These will be posted tomorrow on my Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You can leave your picks there. You pick these games better than me, you're in that drawing. Next Tuesday's the grand drawing, grand champion, whatever you want to call it, for your chance to win a $100 Visa gift card and a gift certificate to Fanatics. So get your picks in. You got time, and you can be in that drawing. If you beat me, that is. I haven't gone 6-0 yet this year. I don't know if I will. A couple of those games might be a stretch. We'll find out. There's only one way to find out. Be a part of it. Be a part of the Captain Lou six-pack challenge. It's that simple. And I want to thank everybody that has taken the time to do it throughout the year. Makes it fun. The interaction with you guys and gals has been great. And it's why we do this. It's why I do it anyways. So, well, hey, we're going to wrap it up here in a couple of minutes. But again, want to thank Dylan Hebert for coming on, and also Colin Roberts for taking time out. If you're in the Savannah area, you're down in Georgia, not this weekend, but next weekend, I highly recommend you check out the Savannah Classic. It's, as Colin mentioned, it is the second most attended college tournament besides the Beanpot and we'll call it the third highest attended college tournament. You got the Frozen Four, then you got the Beanpot tournament, then you've got the Savannah Classic. And they'll get about 7,000 people there. So if I was you, I would check it out. If you're down in that area, you want to watch some great hockey, tickets are still available, but you better scoop them up, because they're going to get a sellout crowd. They always do. So, well, we talked about the NFL scenarios. We talked about everything. Again, we got about a minute or so. I want to just talk about, I look at Antonio Brown, that fiasco. We talked about a little bit at the beginning of the show. I see posts where we've got people that, feel sorry for the guy, think that he needs to get help. I agree he does, but I also think part of me thinks that this is orchestrated. You see him with his rap albums and whatnot that he's trying to promote. But now it came out today that he was severely hurt, and they're saying now that they've done the same thing to Godwin. They're forcing Gronk to go out there. I honestly think that he'd probably still be on the active roster if he hadn't pulled that stunt. So it's all about AB. The guy, maybe he took that vicious hit from Vontaze Burfict back in the day in 2016, I think it was, in the playoffs, and it did something. It did maybe trigger something. But all his antics with Pittsburgh, with Oakland, with New England, and now with Tampa. It's funny, I was watching the Dan Patrick show, and they brought up this scenario. Would you take a knucklehead if for the first year he got you Super Bowl, and then the next year you knew he was going to do something stupid? I bet you 32 teams would do that, though. And that's the state of how it is in pro sports. If a guy can guarantee you a championship, they're going to put up with it. As long as you're winning, winning cures everything. And not that Tampa Bay's not winning. They're probably going to be the 2 seed or the 3 seed. But it took an awful lot to get Bruce Arians to let him go. I mean, He falsified a vaccination card. His ass would have been cut. I don't care. I know they're depleted, but come on. He's going to show up on another roster again next year, probably. Who knows? He may end up fighting Jake Paul for all I know. But that's all I'm going to talk about, AB. I'm done with him. He doesn't deserve any more, especially here on the Extravaganza. Well, that's going to do it tonight. Again, I want to thank Dylan Hebert from the Dome Field podcast and the World Elite podcast, talking LSU and the New Orleans Saints, and also a little bit of pro wrestling with AEW and WWE. Want to thank Colin Roberts from Georgia Tech Hockey, their head coach, talking about the Savannah Classic and their season. We're going to have more ACHA coaches and players on, again, starting next week. Make sure you stick around for that. We will give you the grand prize winner of the Captain Lou Six-Pack Challenge next Tuesday night. We'll talk about who the national champion is, and we'll have all the playoff scenarios all set for you. We're going to have a ton to talk about next Tuesday, so join us 8 until 10 p.m. live here on the 12-Ounce Sports Network for another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Well, let's remind everybody, before we close, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Thanks for joining us tonight here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza on 12-Ounce Sports. We'll see you next Tuesday, 8 until 10. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good night. Enjoy the football this weekend, and enjoy the